course, Herald Square right across the street from Macy's. And, of course, the old story about Miracle on 34th Street. Earlier tonight, we almost had a duel on West 34th Street as Hardball host Chris Mathews interviewed Senator Zell Miller of Georgia. And let me tell you, friends, Senator Miller came ready to fight. Of course, they ended up great friends. They were friends before, they were friends after, but it got heated there for a while. And let's take a quick look at some of that interview.
Senator, you're the expert. Many times as a conservative Republican, you've had to come out on the floor and obey party whips and vote against big appropriations passed by the Democrats when they were in power. You weren't against feeding poor people. You weren't against Social Security. You weren't against a lot of programs that, because of the nature of parliamentary procedure and combat, you had to vote against the whole package. Didn't you many times vote against whole packages of spending when you would have gladly gone for a smaller package?
Well, I didn't make speeches about them, and I didn't put them in my platform. Right here is what John Kerry put out as far as his U.S. Senate platform was. He was talking about he wanted to cancel the MX missile, the B-1 bomber, the anti-satellite system. I mean, this is not voting for something that was in a big bill.
Can I ask you about your role in the Democratic Party, because you've caused such a hit tonight, because you are a man of the Democratic Party. Long before this election, you had to watch, as a Southern conservative, the nomination by your party of people like George McGovern, Fritz Mondale, Jimmy Carter, liberal after liberal after liberal, including Mike Dukakis, perhaps the most liberal of them all. What caused you to cross the aisle tonight?
By coming to Washington and seeing firsthand what a mess it is and how far out the Senate Democrats are. They're off the chart as far as being with the mainstream of America. I think the straw that broke the camel's back was the Homeland Security measure. When time after time, John Kerry and the Democrats put collective bargaining above Homeland Security. That did it for me.
Well, that did it for Max Cleland as well, didn't it?
It surely did. And probably Gene Carnahan. And nobody is to blame except, well, they're to blame because they voted that way, but who's really to blame is Tom Daschle for insisting that they do it 11 times over a 4-month period. It was dumb.
You know, Zell wasn't really happy there, and we've got some more tape that we're going to run in a second. I think some people were trying to be polite. The only good part. It's like showing Gone with the Wind and not showing the last line because you didn't want to say, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Where was the knockout punch? This is like Ollie Frazier, and they're showing the first round when they're jogging around the ring.
I'm going to tell you something, Joe. Unless you show the real deal in Scarborough country or here tonight, I'm going to come over there and beat the hell out of you.
Hey,
we'll
you know what? You know what? You want it? You want it? Bring it on, Barnacle!
10 seconds left.
Yeah, you guys saw it, though. It was unbelievable TV, and I'm asking everybody right now, cut the tape, and let's get the part of this tape that the people want to see. It was incredible television, and what I was surprised about was that Zell Miller, I mean, Chris asked him a question on procedure. It seemed like a fairly legitimate question on procedure, and Zell Miller challenged him to a duel. Talk about it, Mike Barnacle.
Well, I think Zell probably is in the home of Aaron Burr or Alexander Hamilton. You know, he's hearkening back to an earlier, easier time when arguments could be settled with pistols instead of 30-second commercials.
If you know Zell, you don't ask him procedural questions.
No.
Really, he goes off the charts with procedure.
It drives him crazy.
Drives him nuts.
Everybody knows that.
Everybody who knows Zell knows that.
Tony Blankley, you have served in Washington for some time. You know Washington, and I know Zell Miller. He's a great guy. Yeah. I love him. That guy came out angry, and he was angry because he felt like, I think because, and I've talked to him a long time about this, he really did feel like the Democratic Party of his youth betrayed him, abandoned him, and is not serving this country.
No, I've talked with him in green rooms around Washington, and he is absolutely firm in his rejection of where the Democratic Party is going on the war. And I think it's the war that's finally broken it for him. I think until then, you go along with your party and you accept the fact you're not maybe mainstream in it. But I think looking at the danger that he saw to the country and the Democratic Party response, I think when he talked about bipartisanship at the beginning of his litany of complaints about the Democrats and Kerry, I think that's where the heart of his passion was.
All right, you know what? Angie's just told me that she's in the control room.
Yeah.
She went to the editors herself. She told them she was going to challenge them to a duel unless they gave us the real deal they have. Roll the tape.
Do you mean to say that you really believe that John Kerry and Ted Kennedy do not believe in defending the country?
Well, look at their votes.
Wait
a minute. I said I didn't question their patriotism.
No, do you believe that they don't believe in defending the country?
Their judgment. What?
Do you believe they want to defend the country?
Look, I applaud what John Kerry did as far as volunteering to go to Vietnam. I applaud what he did when he volunteered for combat. I admire that and I respect that. And I acknowledge that. I've said that many, many times.
Right. But I'm just asking you as an expert.
I think his record is atrocious.
Well, let me ask you, when Democrats come out, as they often do, liberal Democrats, and attack conservatives and say they want to starve little kids, they want to get rid of education, they want to kill the old people. That kind of rhetoric is not educational, is it?
Wait a minute. Now, this is your program, and I'm a guest on your program.
Yes,
and so I want to try to be as nice as I possibly can to you. I wish I was over there where I could get a little closer up into your face. But I'm not going to have to stand here and listen to that kind of stuff. I didn't say anything about not feeding poor kids. What are you doing?
No, I'm saying that when you said tonight, I just want you to...
Well, you're saying a bunch of baloney that didn't have anything to do with what I said up there on the roster.
Okay, you believe, Senator, truthfully, that John Kerry wants to defend the country with spitballs. Do you believe that?
That was a metaphor, wasn't it? You know what a metaphor is.
Well, what do you mean by that metaphor?
Wait a minute. He certainly does not want to defend the country with B-1 bomber or the B-2 bomber or the Harrier jet or the Apache helicopter or all those other things that I mentioned, and there were even more of them than here. You've got to quit taking these Democratic talking points and using what they send to you.
No, I'm using your talking points and asking you if you really believe them.
Well, use John Kerry's talking points from what he's had to say on the floor of the Senate, where he talked about them being occupiers, where he put out this whenever he was running for the U.S. Senate, about what he wanted to cancel. Cancel, to me, means to do away with.
What did you mean by the following?
I think we ought to cancel this interview.
Well, I don't mean, but please, well, that would be my loss, Senator.
You're hopeless. I wish I was over there. In fact, I wish that we lived in the.
Senator,
I wish we lived in the day. I wish we lived in. Chris,
I got to warn you, we're in a tough part of town over here. But I do recommend you come over because I like you. Let me tell you this: if a Republican senator broke ranks. And, all right, I'm sorry. A Republican senator broke ranks and came over and spoke for the Democrats. Would you respect him?
Yes, of course I would. I've seen that happen from time to time. Look,
what did Jim Jefferson? What's Jim Jefferson say to you? Jim Jefferson of Vermont switched parties after getting elected.
Ask a question,
well, that's a tough question. It takes a few words.
Get out of my face. If you're going to ask me a question, step back and let me answer.
Senator,
you know, I wish we lived in the day where you could challenge a person to a duel. Now that would be pretty good. But don't pull that.
I need you, Senator.
Wait a minute. Don't pull that kind of stuff on me like you did that young lady when you had her there browbeating her to death.
Yeah, well,
I'm not her.
I'm
not her.
Let me tell you, she was suggesting
you get in my face, I'm going to get back in your face.
Shot himself to win a medal, and I was trying to correct the record.
The only reason you're doing it is because you're standing way over there in Herald Square.
Ron Silver?
Oh, man, that's TV. That's Survivor.